Hey everyone, welcome to Heather Havenwood the Win. Really all about entrepreneurship and how we can help you make more money in life. And today I have someone on the line that I'm actually interviewing for the second time because the recording disappeared. That's sometimes happens in the world. So thank you so much, Bree, for coming back and doing this all over again. I really appreciate it. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. I am no stranger to tech issues, so I have much sympathy.
Oh my gosh. He was like, hi, Bree, can we totally redo that? And I really try. I really try. So, everyone, my name is Heather Havenwood. You are watching me and Bree Noble. Let me explain to you who Bree is in the world. Let's see. Whoa, hold on a second. Oh, I have it already. I'm looking at the bio and it says you have it already. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hold on, just a second. I gotta go find her bio. So I'm gonna have it go over to you. So Bree, tell us more. Tell us about you. You actually own BreeNoble.com as well as Fee Musician, which is really about helping women, musicians, and artists make money in the world. So I'm going to let you kind of describe who you are.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's femmusician.com. That's F as in female, E as in entrepreneur, musician.com. And what I am all about is letting musicians know that they are entrepreneurs. They aren't just musicians and creatives. They do run a business as a musician. And I want to make sure that they are well prepared for that because, you want to make sure that you're making money from your music so you can keep making more money from your music. Otherwise, the world will not get to experience the fantastic creativity and the product of that and your art that you want to bring to them. So you need to make sure that you're actually running your music business or musician business in a way that is actually bringing in money for you. So that's why I created at femmusician.com. And I also run the Female Musician Academy. And, so I do kind of love to focus on female artists. It all started out with my online radio station and podcast, Women of Substance. Or independent artists, I wanted to make sure there was a platform where they really got some exposure because I feel like we're underrepresented on regular radio and satellite radio as far as like the percentage of artists that you hear that are female. So it's kind of where that started. It grew into this platform of helping musicians get better positioned in their marketing and their business. And then it grew into a community and training community called the Female Musician Academy. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now. I am actually a singer-songwriter. That's how I started and moved into this area of educating because I felt like there wasn't enough support. I know I didn't have any support in those early days.
So, okay, so who Bree Noble is she's a female entrepreneur musician. And I had the opportunity to speak to many of the women in her organization, in her group. And I love what you're doing because I think that artists specifically and musicians, even like a sub niche of that is very, in women sub niche of that, like there's a super niche. They're not talked to a lot. We find that musicians and artists aren't communicated to a lot because they are artists and speaking to them and they're underserved on like how to help them be artists, be creative, and yet be a businessman or woman. How do you shift that? So when I had the opportunity to speak to your ladies, I found it was really interesting how they were really interested in how do I make a living as a musician by thinking like an entrepreneur? How do I think like an entrepreneur and still be a musician? How do I find a fulfilling career that fits my talent and lifestyle and family demands and still be a musician, be an artist, and actually make money at it? So what do you find is the biggest challenge today for musicians, women musicians, or just musicians in general, and making a living at that?
Well, there's so many like preconceived notions in their minds. I think like I need to be a starving artist. That is just, it's become this, kind of cliche that like that's what you have to accept if you're going to be a musician. And so a lot of them buy into that, or they just figure this is how it is because that's the prevailing wisdom. And I think that's the problem, is that's where they start from. So they haven't thought of themselves as a business at all. That's one of the big things that my brand is trying to break through. And they're like, you guys are entrepreneurs. You guys are innovators. When I was growing up, entrepreneurs were like inventors, like I didn't think of myself as ever being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that all entrepreneurs are creators on some level. Either they are an inventor of a thing, they're an inventor of music. For me, I'm an inventor of copy and marketing and branding. It's a very creative process that I go into to actually have that happen, to help visualize a company, where they're headed, where they're going, what's the brand, and then the imagery, the name, the colors, like how do you do that? And then how do you, in a way, have that happen in the world? How do you go from concept to actually people seeing it or hearing it? I think that's pretty powerful. What are some case studies or success stories of some of your clients?
Oh, yeah. So I have some fantastic people that I've worked with. Catherine Mahler is one of them. She's a Canadian fiddle player. And she has just done, pretty much she's followed my formula of like how to really build her audience and get herself out there. She has her own Facebook Live show. She's starting to branch out into teaching fiddle, which is kind of another facet of her business. And a lot of musicians do that. There's a lot of, cobbling together these streams of income, as all of us entrepreneurs do. And so she just did a Kickstarter funded by, I think it was maybe 115% in a pretty short time. And now she's doing her CD release. She just came out with a new CD. And so, she really has learned to think like an entrepreneur. And for her, the big piece that was missing was the goal setting and the productivity. And in the last, 6-9 months, she's really dialed that in. And I've just seen her like take off like a rocket. It's pretty amazing.
So do you find that most of the musicians that you work with are doing kind of what I call solo? They're getting hired at hotels, or they're getting hired at local bars, musicians, or is it some other kind of level? Like, where is the industry in general going?
A lot of them are getting hired at, local restaurants. If they're lucky enough to live in a place where there's kind of tourism, many of my students do. There's kind of a season on and a season off. They always have great luck during Christmas time, obviously, because people are always looking for music. And so there's kind of that seasonal flow. It depends on what their kind of music is. I mean, there are many of them that have, duos, small groups. They play at local venues. Mm-hmm. They've started to branch out. I encourage them to branch out into trying house concerts, which is just such a cool opportunity to get intimate with your audience, get to know them. Only see you. They're not there to like, my problem with bars and restaurants is people are there to like, talk to friends. Are we still on? I don't see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
There she is. Okay, you totally disappeared from my screen.
Keep going. Yeah, I disappeared, but you were going. So keep going.
Okay, I'm just getting used to this Be Live thing. All right. So anyway, people go to bars and restaurants and they are like not there to see music and hear music. They're here to talk to their friends. They're here to eat. They're there to drink. They're there to meet people of the opposite sex, and they're not paying attention to the music on the stage. So a lot of musicians, even if they're being paid, they feel like, why am I even bothering? No one is paying any attention to what I'm doing. So that's why house concerts are such a great opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I went to a couple of house concerts here in Austin. They were for charity events. And so it was a charity event, and then it was a house concert. And I loved it. It was a lot of fun. They had a fiddle player and a flute player and just some really talented musicians that were here in Austin. And it was, we were very more connected to the musicians than just, be quiet. I'm trying to talk to my friends, happen a lot in restaurants and bars when you're like, yeah, it's just background music. I don't really want to pay attention to them. I'm really focused on what I'm doing. So, as far as being a female musician, which is what you deal with more, that's your focus. Well, how do you find the biggest challenges are with female entrepreneurship artists than men? Do you find a huge difference there?
I think it's crazy in 2017 for me to say this, but I do think that it's still harder to be taken seriously as a female. I know many of the people I've worked with, they'll tell me things like, when I go to perform and I'm like the head of my band, the venue owner or the sound man or someone just assumes that I'm like a girl. And so, or when you're out there, pitching yourself to radio stations and stuff like that, if you're doing it yourself, it's still harder to be taken seriously as a female. And I don't really understand why that is. Like, it just surprises me every time I hear stories about it, because, obviously, in my opinion, I can't believe that this exists anymore in 2017, but it does.
Yeah, it still does. It happens to this day in entrepreneurship. There's an automatic of like, if you're an entrepreneur, then you're a businessman that has women that work for you. I know that so sexist. I'm probably gonna get all kinds of comments about that one. But it's just true. And in fact, there was a girl that I talked to. She's a CPA/bookkeeper. And she said that out of all the companies that she's worked on, like the bookkeeping side, she's had over 200 companies. She said the ones that were entrepreneurial companies, right, the small business owners, and they were owned by men, she was like 80% of them were owned by men and run by women, right? So the people who work were women, and then he owned it. Like,
wow.
And I thought, I knew that was kind of true, but I never had someone like that who's like stats, real stats. And so she would talk about that. And I thought, when the hell is that going to change? I think it's time for women to be entrepreneurs, to be businesswomen, and say it's okay to be a businesswoman and entrepreneur and an artist at the same time. Men are all the time. All the time. I look at athletes. Athletes nowadays are becoming business owners. I think of the gentleman who I'm going blank. He's got red hair. He's a skateboarder, right? He's got a multi-million-dollar business. He went from skateboarder dude to Olympian to now he's got this huge multi-million-dollar business, actually, and he's now a business owner. And it was an automatic transition. There was no like weirdness to it. It was just like, of course, right? Of course. And I think that's an automatic nowadays with athletes, musicians. Musicians are learning how to be more business oriented, because the days of just staying up and just doing your thing and getting paid for it without any kind of self-promotion effort are gone, So I think that you have to be more correlated and focused on what you're doing, especially as a woman, and self-promoting yourself as a woman.
Yeah, I think you have to be so proactive. I mean, it comes to there was this virtual summit going around about, for musicians. And I got the notification of it, and I looked at the speakers, and I am like, every single one of these 20 speakers are male. What is up? So I wrote them a message and I said, your summit looks great, but why are there no female speakers? Like, there's no perspective from the female side here. And they wrote back to me and they said, we couldn't find any female speakers, which of course I didn't believe. Like, they just didn't know where to look. And they said, we looked you up and we're impressed with you. We want to ask you to be a speaker because we don't have any female speakers. And I was like, okay, wow, that's really surprising. But, because I was proactive and I wasn't pushy and annoying about it, but I was just like, I'm just curious, like, why don't you have any?
I find I've done that myself actually on an event recently. And I said, like, there's no female. I'm just what I call throw in the token female. Come on, like, at least throw it in there. They're like, well, we couldn't find any. I'm like, that's because you look for people that are in your circle already. Like, you look for your buddies. Like, who do I talk to already that I love? And like, yeah, it's like this far. You don't go beyond your circle. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you've got to be willing to go outside of your circle and look for real experts. And no, they might not be your best friend. They might not be the girl, your guy you talk to every single day. I just had a conversation with a gentleman, and I want to get your take on this. He does events like a masterminds retreats for entrepreneurs. Pretty cool guy. I really had a great time conversation with him. And he has a business partner, so it's two men. And his question to me on the show was, we have such a hard time getting women to come. And I go, well, okay, well, tell me the structure, like how you're marketing it. And he says, me and my buddy, friend, and did we put our wives out there on the pages? And I'm like,
Yeah, they're as wives, not as entrepreneurs.
as the wife of an entrepreneur, not as the entrepreneur. Very different, And he's like, well, we want to have it more equal. And I was like, well, the only way to do that, unfortunately, is to have, there's two business partner men, is what I call, to have the female entrepreneur in the, like a mix, like a partnership or something.
Yep.
Shift that, because that's really the only way to invite. Because what happens is women, I feel, what do you think? They feel they have to, it's like they don't want to be around a sausage fest. Nothing personal, but they don't want to be around a sausage fest. And
yeah.
Right? Because it comes from a different place. What do you think of that? Because you talk to women every single day that are out there self-promoting themselves in the musician world.
I do think that sometimes if there's a lot of men, there's a lot of ego sparring or whatever going on, and women don't really want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I do think, the reason that I have a platform that's specific to women in my membership site is because I want them to feel comfortable there, to be vulnerable. And I think women really don't like to do that if they're around men. Even sometimes it's like just a natural response that you can't help, you don't notice. But then sometimes it's a very known thing. Like, I wouldn't open up about, X, Y, and Z in front of men. And I want them to feel comfortable, like to be able to show up in their pajamas or like no makeup on or whatever. And you can't do that when there's any men in the room, really. And I don't know, maybe like I'm a married person, right? So I'm not looking to connect with any of them, but there's just something about that you want to impress in a way.
Yeah. There's every mastermind I've been to, a small group setting, it's usually all men. And even though I deserve to be at the table and they know that, and there's no like weirdness there, it was always interesting that whenever we would break, like on a lunch or, a 10-minute break, all the guys would start talking to each other and I would just stand there. I do it on purpose. Like, I'd stand there and just like be smiling, like being open, and like no one would talk to me. And these are people that I know, they're not like strangers. And then I would say something like, yo, and I think it's interesting that it's just an automatic. And I find it in the music industry specifically, it's sexy. It's sexy to see a hot musician with a guitar and like by himself, it's like, hey, I think it's a different kind of culture though when you see that with a female. Not that it's bad, but I think it's just a different kind of culture. She has to really work hard beyond than just being cool and sexy and like having a good smile and like a little guitar going. You know what I mean? I think you really have to be different and promote yourself. And do you find that it's more challenging to make money, to earn money in the industry as a musician and female? I'm making that up. I have no idea. I really don't.
What I said earlier about them being taken seriously. I think it's harder to get into certain venues. Yeah. I think it's harder to prove that you can bring a certain draw. And especially if you start to get older, they have just as much talent, but there's so much like sexism when it comes to, you're expecting the woman to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't,
Yeah, not all musicians look perfect and gorgeous and smiling and wonderful. Yeah. So what are the things that you teach? Hey, Tim, by the way, I'm saying hi to Tim, who's like, am I the only man here on my Facebook group? Here, it just happens to be, we talk about women's stuff. Come on in. So what are some skill sets that you give your musicians, men or women or whomever? What are some skill sets you teach them that you find that helps them, make more money as a musician and artist?
Well, there's several. There's the one about learning how to be unique, because then you don't have to compete against like women or men. It's like I am my own unique, and you present yourself that way, and that's how you have a certain fan base, and that's who you're going to attract, because you are the unique you. It's not that you're competing against men or competing against other women. So that's the big thing that they need to adopt at first. And then just teaching them negotiation skills when it comes to booking, teaching them to stand up for themselves and be completely confident when they approach booking situations. And then the other reason I love house concerts is because you don't have to deal with all that crap. Like, you are only dealing with your fans. You're offering these concerts to your fans. They're bringing in their friends. Those people become fans. It becomes this amazing, like, expanding circle.
I love that. That house concerts are cool. Like, it's way more intimate actually than
Yes.
So, okay. So if someone is not a musician, can they work with you, or an artist, or any kind of other artistic, or do you just only work with musicians specifically?
Well, my courses and my membership site is absolutely about musicians. If somebody wants to approach me and ask me if I can help them with something, I mean, I am a total nerd when it comes to, I love marketing. I love Facebook ads. I love all that stuff. I love, and I definitely help out other people that are building courses, and that I'm absolutely open to working with people like that. But all of my, pre-set up courses and membership sites are definitely dealing with musicians.
Just musicians. Okay, great. So let me ask you about this in musician world. I know nothing about the music world. And by the way, I can't carry a tone to save my life. So do you find that musicians are also singers? You find it's like all encompassing, right? Like musicians are singers and songwriters. And do you find that there's other business, there's business models outside of just doing house concerts? What are some other business models that are working today?
Yeah, so a lot of them are writing for film and TV and commercials. So their main source of income is music licensing. That's one thing that people do, especially if they don't want to tour. They've got reasons they have to stay home and they just like to work from home. There's also opportunities to use services like air gigs and get, recording gigs from home if you have a home studio. A lot of people are doing that nowadays, and I even do it too for fun. I get, a gig a month or something just to kind of keep my chops up vocally, and it's really fun. And you get paid well.
I'm curious. What's that? What is that?
So airgigs.com is the site, and you go in there and you say, these are the kinds of music that I perform well at. This is how much I'm going to charge, and then people that need, like songwriters that need a demo singer, will approach you instead of going to the local studio and hiring somebody that pay. If they've got their own, just hire out the vocal and we'll send it over the internet, and then they can mix it and all that themselves. And it saves everybody money. It gets vocalists some work, and they don't even have to leave their home.
Oh, nice. I love that. Airgigs.com. So it's kind of like the voice recording, voice.com. We have voiceovers and things.
Right. It's like that for singing.
Nice. Air gigs. I love that. Do they have one like that for music? Like if they needed a string guitar for something, or do they have that for?
Well, you can use air gigs for that. I just think about it as a vocalist, but yeah, if you do like guitar solos, or you need an acoustic guitar, rhythm guitar, or whatever, you can, like if you're a flautist and they need a flute on this one part, absolutely. You can use air gigs for any of that stuff.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's super cool. Okay. Wonderful. Well, I just wanted to, so here's the thing. If you're a artist, I find that I think all creators are artists on some level. And I think specifically with musicians, because honestly, if someone came to me and they're a musician, I could work with them on their marketing and branding. But honestly, as far as business models for musicians, I have no idea. Like, I really don't. I would like, I don't know, call Bree, because I really don't know what's working and not working in today's world. Like, how do people get records nowadays? Is that even a word?
People still use that word. Obviously, we don't mean the physical record, but just like the project is sometimes called a record still.
Do people make money anymore on iTunes and producing records online, or is that even like kind of a dead business model? Because nowadays, all you see all these, look, I just went and saw NSYNC. And Paula Abdul. Why that girl is touring, I have no idea. But I did just see NSYNC and Paula Abdul here in Austin like 3 weeks ago, and the place was packed. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are like 50 and 45 and 50. Why are they doing this? They must be making money at it, right? So is that really the only business model nowadays that are working, is live concerts like that?
It's a good business model. I would say most of the people that I talk to on my podcast, when I interview people, they would say that is their biggest piece of the pie. but they all have a pie. You know, they usually have a combination of like live shows, music licensing shows, like teaching. Some of them are, you know, have a studio and they're teaching students. They're doing, you know, air gigs kind of stuff. It's all this one big pie that combines into your income as a musician usually. And online sales is part of that. But I don't know anyone that's making their entire income from online sales. You know, maybe they're making it from, you know, doing YouTube videos, cover videos or something, and people subscribe to their channel, they're making ad revenue. Or there's just a lot of different ways you can do it, but it really does need to be a pie of a bunch of different slices.
Bunch of different slices, right? Yeah. I mean, Paul Abdul, like a minute. I remember when I was like in third grade or fourth grade. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
What was so cool about that show is I was looking around, I was with my sister, and we grew up in. I was born in the '70s, right? So I grew up in the
Me
'80s.
too.
Okay, so you know, everyone there was women, and they're all in their 40s, and they all grew up in the 80s, and and some girls were actually dressed up in the 80s. They did the whole hair thing, and you know, I just found it hilarious because the place was packed, you know, and here we're all listening to NSYNC and Paula
I
Abdul.
think people like to relive. I mean, that's what I do. When I have to do the dishes, I turn on 80s music. You know, people like to relive that. There's memories associated with it.
Yeah, it was, and people, yeah, it was super fun. I had a great time, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, that guy's like 50 and he's trying to act like he's still 22 and he's sing thing, da, 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 you know. And I just like, they must be making some dough with this, to be leaving their homes and their kids and like whatever life they have going on, to get in all leather and be
Yep.
doing their booty in front of all these 45-year-old.
And it all depends on how well they managed their money when they had the money. You know, some of them didn't do well and now they just need to pay their mortgage.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. It was actually funny. My sister and I were like really watching the NSYNC guys, and there was one of them. I'm looking at him and I'm going, I don't think that's really the guy, because the guy didn't know.
Oh, you think it's a stand? It's like a Milli Vanilli thing. Yeah, stand in.
Stand-in, because you could tell he was like he was looking like, wait, hold on, I'm supposed to turn now. Okay, wait, hold on.
Oh my god, he's still learning.
Right, you're like, okay, that guy, his real name is like Bob, and they try to make him out like he's one of the original NSYNC guys.
That's funny.
Well, he can't even dance, and he's like, I'm being paid to be here tonight, and I don't know what I'm doing. So, yeah, you could tell he wasn't really singing. He was kind of.
Wait, so was Justin Timberlake in it or not?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so because he's like way beyond that.
NSYNC, it was Kids on the Block.
Oh, New Kids on the Block. Okay.
Kids on the Block. I'm totally blanking because it was Wahlberg.
Oh, was he in it?
He was there.
Donnie was in it. Okay.
He was like the only original one there. You could tell. The original one. I will be the entire New Kids on the Block for you.
Well, the thing with them is they've actually come out with new music recently that's actually been very well received. So they actually have a reason to go on tour. I don't know about Paula.
Paula only sung Paula old school songs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I'm thinking to myself, she must just like be, because she was a preempt. So she did about 20 minutes of songs. Who knows if she was actually even singing?
Wow, that's really short.
And then like it was all New Kids on the Block. It was like New Kids on the Block. And they were showing all these old pictures when New Kids first came out, and of course, it reminds you back when you remember that when I was like junior high, you're like, oh, a crush on Wahlberg, you know, and he's like 12. Now he's 45 years old and he's over there and
I think I'm older than you because my big thing was Wham, and of course now George Michael is dead, which makes me super sad. Oh, because he's so talented. But yeah, so I miss the New Kids. I was already like out of ending high school then, so
I was still crushing on. Oh my god, he's so cute. Anyway, so I think making money in the music world's changed. So I love what you're doing for all musicians around the world, because musicians are, I think, they're creators. They're the creative artists, and they need to be compensated for their time, for their energy, for their livelihood, for what they do. And nowadays, it's just changed so much, and I just actually love what you're doing. So I want to wrap it up in how can people find you if they're interested in working with you? Where can they go to say, hey, I really want to work with you?
Absolutely. Well, the first place I suggest to go is femmusician.com. That's F as in female, E as in entrepreneur, musician.brenoble.com, but people misspell my name all the time. So I always give both. But there, I have my podcast there where I am giving you all kinds of great information about how to make money as a musician. And you can also check out the Female Musician Academy over there if you're interested in joining, 120 plus female artists and in a community where we're helping and supporting each other and all learning how to, really do a good job making money as a musician.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. And so I just wrote down on here, if you can see it, it's femmusician.com. That's FEMUSICIAN.com. Check it out. It's really an awesome organization. I've had the opportunity to listen to talk to some of the women in the group. So check it out very much. Bree, thank you so much for doing this again.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. And I'm super sorry about last time. Again, this is BreeNoble.com as well as Fem Musician. She's a female entrepreneur musician. And I just love what you're doing, and check her out as well. This is Heather Havenwood and Bree Noble. Till next time.
Bye.